Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Membership Minute, Printing United Alliance's series dedicated to bringing you the latest in association news. Today, we have a special extended Membership Minute where we meet an expert here at Printing United Alliance. Joining us today is Gary Jones, and he's the Director of Environmental Health and Safety Affairs for the past 3 years and has been part of the industry for over 33 years. Gary, along with his colleague, Marcy Kinter, presented an Ask the Experts webinar on March 17th, where they talked more about operating safely in a COVID-19 environment. They also have a webinar in November that will focus on the issue of extended producer responsibility. If you would like to learn more about these member-only webinars, please visit sgia.org/education/ask-the-experts. Recordings of the webinars will be made available to members to access via sgia.org. Thanks for joining us, Gary.
Oh, well, thank you, Ashley. I'm very excited to be here. This is doing these series of interviewing the staff members has been, I think, very revealing, and I've enjoyed it watching those as they've gone along. But as you said, I've been in the industry quite some time, 33 years. I had a very interesting start to getting in the printing industry. I started with Graphic Arts Technical Foundation, or GATF, and as you know, the history of what happened with GATF and Printing Industries America, they ended up merging at some point. And then I left Printing Industries America and began to work for SGIA. And I've been at SGIA, or now Printing United Alliance, but SGIA for 3 years. And of course, SGIA and Printing United Alliance merged again. So it seems like I've been involved in a lot of the mergers of the associations as things have progressed. And starting at GATF, so many years ago, I actually came out of the laboratory. My background is in biology and chemistry. I have a master's in chemistry, and I worked in the crime lab. So when I first got out of school, a newly minted forensic scientist, I was working in the crime lab, and you say, well, how'd you get into printing? And so what happened is I actually applied for a chemist job at Graphic Arts Technical Foundation because they had laboratories and chemists, and there wasn't, that position had been filled, but they were looking for someone to do environmental health and safety. And so with the background that I had, they hired me and said, we can teach you printing. And since then, it's really been quite an adventure for me. And the time has gone incredibly fast. The nature of the work that we do in environmental health and safety, it's every day is a new day. And there's always things that are changing. And interesting enough, a lot of my background, my technical background, I apply in what we do. And I tend to be more in our department, as you know, I'm in the government regulatory affairs department with Marcy Kinter. I tend to be more of the geek in our department, and Marcy's the policy person. So we make for an excellent combination. As I worked through my career through Printing Industries America, I worked closely with Marcy for almost 30 years. And then when I joined SGIA, I was excited because while we worked as colleagues, we're actually now teammates. And so we work extremely close together on a variety of projects, and we really complement each other. My background is commercial printing and with the digital, and Marcy started at SGIA, so her background was screen, and it morphed into digital. So really between the two of us, we really do cover a lot of the front of the industry, and there's many things that we've addressed over the years.
And that's such a change from forensic science to printing, but we're glad that you came over to the printing side, and we have you here now.
I have some very interesting stories. If we had time, I could tell you about my work in the crime lab. So but I really, when I joined GATF, I never looked back. It's really, to me, been a very rewarding career working in the printing industry.
So Gary, tell us, what do you do specifically at Printing United Alliance?
Actually, that's a great question. As I mentioned, we really cover the waterfront on environmental health and safety issues, regulatory issues, sustainability. I would say that in looking at what we do in our department, is our primary focus is members, right? We're here for our members. We exist to support and service our members. And our first goal is to make sure our members understand their regulatory compliance requirements. So we spend a lot of time working with the members on education and outreach and helping them understand what needs to be done. And it includes, best management practices as well, implementing best practices. Our second area is we do a lot of advocacy work. In other words, we're representing the industry to agencies. And our primary focus there is at the is at the federal level for agencies and at the state level and local level agencies, and at the state level, some legislative work. Elizabeth Lyons, who's part of Printing United Alliance, she focuses on the federal legislative aspects, and we help support her. But our focus is on the regulatory part. It's EPA, it's OSHA, Department of Transportation. So we're really there representing the industry. We're advocating against bad regulation and advocating for smart regulation. Unfortunately, we have to have regulation in a lot of areas, and so we find that working with the regulatory body, the folks that are writing the rules that we have to follow, we're able to bring the industry's perspective as to the problems that these regulations have caused and the things that can make them a lot more streamlined and yet meet the goal of what's required. So we spend a lot of time in that area. And the last area is sustainability. Sustainability has grown from a thing that was nice to do to a thing, depending upon your market, that's something that's required by you to do. Especially your customer base is driving a lot of sustainability changes. But we're also seeing now the introduction of regulatory requirements in area of sustainability, focusing on chemicals that can be used in certain manufacturing, primarily chemicals that are found in packaging. And we have some of our members that do packaging. And then we're seeing this emergence of what's called the extended producer responsibility, which is really a focus on what to do with the waste that's generated, and primarily packaging. But we're seeing that printed paper is also now being included in some of the proposals. Now, I'll stress the word at this point is proposals at the state level, but there is a lot of momentum, shall we say, to introduce and to push these through the various state programs on extended producer responsibility, which has a sustainability element.
So what can you offer to members?
Well, I think one of the greatest benefits that our members have is access to Marcy and I. Between the two of us, we've got over 60 years of experience in the industry. We've got expertise in a lot of these areas. And I like to say, we're just a simple phone call or email away. We help our members solve problems. I mean, and to me, that's the key. And I get a lot of satisfaction with helping our members solve problems. And those problems could be something simple, or they could be complex. But sometimes it's an easy thing, and sometimes it's a difficult question that we have to respond to. But we do service our members. We respond promptly to those questions and inquiries. In order to fulfill our mission, which is to help educate our members, we also produce a lot of products. We do a lot of fact sheets. We do checklists. We do training materials. We do written program templates. So we produce a lot of information that our members can access if they have a question, and we put that up on our webpage. We keep them up to date through what we call our First to Know, and that's a section on our webpage where if it's a regulatory requirement, we post something up, a summary. I just recently, for example, ASTM just released some new guidance on face masks. And so now there's a standard. So we wrote a summary of what that was and put it up on the First to Know, because face masks, even though we're getting near the end of the COVID pandemic, we're still in it. And face masks are very critical in terms of a tool that we can use to help prevent the spread of the infection. And we are getting optimistic on the COVID-19, but we're still in the midst of it. And along those lines, one of the things that we collaborated with the HR department, Adrienne Harrison, is we put together a COVID-19 planning and response guide. And so we made that available to the members. So we put out information like that to allow our members to respond to and put in place programs that will help protect their employees and meet the regulatory requirements. We work closely with members on an individual basis too. So if a member gets an OSHA citation or a notice of violation for an environmental concern, we help them work through that process. And I'm actually helping two members right now, one with an OSHA citation, one with a notice of violation for hazardous waste concerns. And so we work with them on a response to that, and then interacting with the agency, because when you get a citation or a notice of violation, there's usually penalties involved, and those penalties can be quite steep. So we try to alleviate and work with them on getting the penalties reduced or getting the citation eliminated. We have pretty good luck with that because sometimes the agencies aren't quite sure if it's a violation or not, and then we help bring additional information to light. And likewise, if we have a member that needs more in-depth help, say for example, they want a mock OSHA audit, or they want someone to come out and do some training on site, we work with some outside consultants to do that. Now we coordinate with the consultants, but we have a handful of folks that we really trust. We've vetted them, and so we know that when we have a member and we refer a consultant to them, we know that they're going to get really good service from those consultants. And so we've been able to work with those folks. And those are folks that, Marcia and I've known over the years. We've developed relationships with those consultants, and we trust them and work with our members and to make sure that they know what they're doing. And, I like to say this too, is that what happens is that a simple phone call, for example, or an email, we can literally save our members thousands of dollars from either a potential penalty or from energy efficiency or a process change, working your way through whatever the issues are. And we're able to solve those problems generally rapidly because of the experience that we've had. And we like to share that with our members. And that's really, to me, that's where I really get a lot of satisfaction, is helping our members through a lot of these issues, which can be very complex. And like we said, there's some legal aspects associated with it for non-compliance. And our goal is to make sure our members are armed with the information to avoid the non-compliance situation. So
right. And it sounds like from what you said, since the issues are so complex, it is great that they have direct contact or able to get in direct contact with you.
Oh, yeah. And the other thing we always say, too, is that we answer our members' questions, and we answer them in a way that they understand. If you've ever cracked open the book of OSHA regulations, first of all, it's not the most exciting reading in the world. But secondly, it's like, what does this mean? And they say this, but how does this apply to my particular operation? So we're that translator, so to speak. We're the person that's, we learn the regulations, we understand the regulations, and then we say, well, this is how it applies. This is what the experience has been. This is where the focus is. And also, too, in our work with the regulators, we work with them on interpretations, because there's sometimes that we don't quite understand exactly what it says. So because we work with the regulators on developments of rules and regulations, we do comments, we work closely with them. We're able to reach out to those folks that we worked with and said, what does this really mean? And let's talk about the situation. And it's done in a way that, isn't in an enforcement scenario. We're doing it as an education perspective. And over the years, we've developed a lot of great relationships with the regulators in the states. And because we've worked with them on, as I said, developing rules and regulations and then interpretations. And we do that at the federal level, too. We've gotten some very critical interpretations, say, for example, on lockout tagout in OSHA and how it applies to the printing industry. And that really becomes one of the primary ways in which we communicate information back to our member.
So how can members of Printing United Alliance get involved with government affairs?
Well, we have a couple different mechanisms. Obviously, as I mentioned, they can email Marcia and I, they can pick up the phone and give us a call, ask their questions. So looking at the First to Know on our advocacy page or signing up for listserv is a great way to get information and be involved with getting, with contacting us. And then we have our communities. As you're aware, on our webpage, we have communities, and we post information out through our communities. And I would say probably the last area to focus on is we do have advisory committees. And so if companies want to really become more engaged, they can ask to be put on we have 2 advisory committees that we work with, and they can be put on the advisory committees. And so there's a wide variety of ways that they can get involved and engage with us. But, I would say the first step is make a phone call or send us an email, and we do get back to you immediately, no later than 24 hours, but because we know these things are important, when we get a member inquiry, we literally drop everything and respond to that.
Good. Great to know. Great to know that there are multiple opportunities for people to get involved and to be able to reach out to you. Thank you so much for all of that information. I think it would be very beneficial for our members. And thank you for joining me today.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. Like I said, I've learned a lot from the other folks that you've been interviewing. So I think this is an excellent series. And really, it's very educational for our members because it allows them to understand, what we're doing for them and how we're working on their behalf, and the ability for the ability for them to reach out to the resources that we've been developing. So I think this is a great series.
Make sure to keep your eye on future episodes of Membership Minute, where we will interview more Printing United Alliance experts. Printing United Alliance is an association built by and for the printing industry. To learn more about the benefits of becoming a Printing United Alliance member, visit sgia.org. Our team is looking forward to hearing from you.